Help me to welcome a new guest on my show today. This is my friend Linda Everhart. Hi, Linda. How are you?
Hi, Kay. I'm fine. Thank you. It's an honor to be your guest today. Thanks for inviting me.
Well, you've got a neat project. Let's take a look at it.
Well,
Tell us a little bit about it.
I'd love to show you the technique Fusique, which is available to the 20th century quilting. It's a simple technique. What we're going to do to begin is we need to select the fabrics that we want to use to make this project. You can choose to make high contrasting fabrics such as the burgundy red to
like
the white.
Here.
Yes. If you want to get artsy, you can find some of the new designer fabrics that's on the market. This is a beautiful example of designer fabric. It's got stripes, and then use something that will show for the second piece. What we're looking for is two color fabrics that go together to make a beautiful quilt. Here's another example. Again, you'll see the metallic thread in the fabric that vibrates, and then there is the embroidery on the piece. So select your fabric first.
Okay. All right, let's say we've got our fabric. We can't wait to get started. What's the next step?
We have to get the design on freezer paper. Now, there's several ways to do this. We can trace the design on freezer paper, and if I was to trace the design on freezer paper, I'd use a mechanical pencil with a self-advancing lead. When you're using that, you don't have to keep clicking your pencil, and your lead is always sharp.
Okay.
That's new technology that we have. A second way that we can do this, Kay, is that we can print the design on freezer paper. I have a slick trick.
Print it, meaning what?
Print it through the printer.
Oh, like our computer printer?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
wow. Okay.
Let me tell you about the new technology. This is what I do at home. I will cut my freezer paper to the size of pattern, and I just cut it. Once I have it there, now if I was to run this through the printer without some type of backing, it would go into my printer and maybe wrap around the roller. So you want to read the instructions of your printer. But what I do is I'll get a second piece of paper, like cardstock or cover weight, like 65-pound paper, and I'll take my iron and just crease right across here. This adheres the two pieces of paper together, and then when you turn it over, it'll just go through your printer and print the design. So you'll have the top one and the bottom. With this design, there's two pieces. So you scan this piece, send it through the printer, or the second piece and send it through the printer, and then tape them together. Once you have your design on freezer paper, then you're ready to start. Now you notice that I have folded this design in quarters, so that way I know where the center is. There's an X in the middle of the center. So the next thing I need to do is have my blocks of fabric. I will have 5 blocks. These are 16.5 inches by 22.5 inches.
Is that the same size as the design, or are they bigger?
The block is actually bigger than the design. So you will lay your block out, and what we want to do is center this in the middle.
This is the right side of the fabric?
This is the right side of the fabric. Once you have this centered, then we're going to press with our iron, and we just slip a mat underneath here and press this down. Now when you're pressing with the iron, you want to select a proper temperature. Freezer paper has a plastic coating on the back. If your iron becomes too hot, the plastic actually melts onto the fabric.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay. That's good to know.
Yes, we need to know that because we can get it too hot.
Let's back up a little bit. Yeah, you mentioned freezer paper, and I know a lot of quilters use freezer paper, but there are some of my viewers that have no idea what that means. What is the freezer paper?
Freezer paper is actually a product you can buy it on the market. It comes in a long tube. It's round, and that's why I would take my template and cut it to the size to run it through the printer.
Okay. But is it actually made for freezers? I mean, to wrap stuff?
No, it was actually made for packaging meat or products to put in your freezer to keep it from getting freezer burn.
Oh, okay.
So it's called freezer paper.
Okay.
And the freezer paper actually has the paper side on the top so that you can trace on it. And on the back side of it, there's a plastic coating. And the plastic coating, when heated up a little bit, will stick to the fabric so it does not slip.
So what temperature would you advise?
When I select the temperature on the iron, I use around the cotton setting,
Okay.
but there's a line on your iron for steam. Set it right between the cotton and the steam, just for that steam setting, just before it gets to steam.
Okay.
And it's the perfect temperature.
Oh, good.
So once you have that on, you'll press this on the top side, and we'll just pretend I'm going to walk you through this because
Okay.
I do have one that's actually pressed. Now, what I'm going to do on the back side of here is iron on fusible webbing. Now, there is no need for you to have fusible webbing all through the back. All you need is the fusible webbing the size of your design. So what I have done is taken my pattern, and I simply, that's
here.
just my stock.
Right.
But here's the original pattern. If you were to look at this, if you can see this, I just simply traced an outline on a piece of paper, and this is the size that I'm going to use for my fusible.
Okay.
Because I don't need a fusible all the way to the edge. So once we have, this is the fusible I'm going to use, I cut this out. I need to remove the paper off the back of the fusible so that we can get this on the back of the block. And again, if you had originally folded this in quarters, you would know where the center of that is. So you can go back to your block, and you can see the center lines, the creases, and just line that up just like what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And again, press with your iron according to the directions of the fusible.
Okay.
The one thing that you do want to use when you're selecting fusible is select a fusible that has a compatible temperature to the fabric you're using. So if it's a cotton fabric, make sure the fusible can use a cotton temperature.
Which
of
is
the
pretty
iron.
hot. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're ready to begin, and this is all pressed. Let's move to this piece here.
And this already has the piece fused on.
Yes.
Okay.
Just a quick repeat, freezer paper. This is the top surface, and on the back of this is your fusible webbing.
Okay.
Now, I cut with a tool like this. This is known as a seam ripper, but I will refer to it as a knife. If you take a close look at it, this is a metal handle. The handle's real strong. There is a screw right here, and you want to make sure this is tightened. This holds the surgical sharp blade on the end of it. With the grooves right here, there is an art to cutting, so it is grooved or ridged on this side. There's a trick to picking this knife up.
I'm sure.
What I do is lay it level, take my third finger and my thumb, and I'm going to pinch. With my index finger, I'm going to place my index finger just in front of the screw, and you would hold it this way.
Oh, okay.
Now, a lot of people, if you can see how that's held there, and I'll do it from the side, a lot of people want to pick this up.
Right. That would be a normal thing
But
to
if
do.
you pick that up, if you look, you're only cutting with the tip.
Right.
So what you need to do is keep this laid flat, and it's like dragging on the surface. So let me show you how I cut a piece.
Okay.
If I work on the flower, and a lot of times I have classes on as I come down here because this is detailed work. I've cut just a little bit, so let me see. If we key right in here, again, you'll push pressure down, put the knife through the freezer paper, and you can kind of hold down, but never put your fingers in front of this knife. This
Wouldn't
is
be
a
a
sharp
good
knife.
idea, would it?
No.
Okay.
So just gently get a hold of it. If you raise the handle, if you look at the back end, it can be just a tiny bit, but not very much. Now, as you begin cutting, it's a slow cut. This is very intricate. Use your rotator and just rotate around. Again, when you're cutting, always pull like it's pulling towards you. Anytime you're tracing or cutting, if you pull it towards you, it will give a nice, gentle cut. And like I say, take your time about cutting. This is an intricate cut. This flower is probably the most intricate part of the design. And as you see, I'm just going around very slowly. Generally, you'll have to practice with this knife.
I can see that.
You'll want to make sure that we can just take a peek and see this is coming out. If you can see the paper coming up. Now, you notice I laid that knife down. When you lay the knife down, always search for your cap and put the cap back on.
Here we go.
There it is. It's clear. It almost disappears. And again, I encourage safety, putting your cap back on when you're not cutting with it, and then putting it up so that children can't reach it.
That's a good idea.
So what you'll do is cut this entire block out. There will be times that when you're cutting, you may have one thread stick. If you have one thread that doesn't completely cut through, it's okay to take your knife and work back in there and just snip it off. There is another way that you can cut this too. I always encourage people, use what tool is comfortable for you. If you want to use scissors on this design, I'll use a sharp pair of scissors. These scissors are designed for cutting thread and fabric.
Okay.
So what you can do is, again, I'll just move things here. You will poke through, and if you notice both times I cut, I actually had the cutting mat behind me.
Right.
Just poke through, and I'm just going to gently do a cut. Now when you're using scissors, it's best to keep everything flat. You want to keep your scissors flat and level. Don't lean them over. The same holds true of the knife. You cannot lean them over or you won't get a straight cut. Just hold them level and start snipping. Now, when I was taught to snip, you do not completely snip to the end. You snip part way, open back up, and glide your scissors. There is a trick to cutting, and that just allows a nice, neat cut.
So you don't go all the way to the tip?
No.
Okay.
And just do little cuts. Just glide the scissors. So both tools are very effective in cutting. Once you have this completely cut out, then we get to the fun part. If you'd slide me that piece up there, this piece has been completely cut out. Okay. So what we're ready to do is remove this piece. If we can just gently. And this will want to tangle and...
Oh, there's a lot of corners and curves, aren't there?
Oh, yeah, but it's all in the cutting. It tangled up. Thank you. Okay, that has just been removed. So what I need to do next, then we can go ahead and just take the freezer paper off here. We're ready to put the color behind this. We just pull this off. Oops. Okay, right now we just have the green mat. But we need to put a color, and so if I select a white, again, when I'm putting the fabric behind, I don't have to have the fabric all the way to the edge. If I have the fabric just big as the design, I can do that.
Just like we did with the fusible.
Yes, and I'll use the same pattern as the fusible. I'll cut my fabric the same size, and then to place this in, what I'll do is, if I can actually go back to original pattern, let's see if I have one. Let's just slide this under here. We wouldn't do this at home. We'd have the pattern piece. But this is going to allow us to line that back up in the positions that it should be so that we can see where it should lay. Now what we need to do is take this paper off so that we can get to the adhesive. Oh,
she got it over here.
Oh, please do. You just have to find the right edge and just start pulling it until it comes off.
This is better with two people, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So get a friend. Let's see, I've got a little bit more here.
And you see all the intricate cut on that.
Oh,
you know, that's
yes.
what makes this design special. But you're not doing any hard work. You just have cut it out. And you just keep working until you have all the paper pulled off.